Hello everyone and welcome to this exercise. We'll look at 5 questions on for loops. We'll try to attempt these questions by using our knowledge of for loops mainly and if statements. Okay, these are the 5 questions. The instructions are given. These are all the instructions. Okay, take a moment and tackle those questions. Let's check the first question together. It says prompt a user to enter an integer n. Find out all the divisors of the integer by checking the modulus of all the numbers between 1 and n. So we're trying to find if any of those numbers, their modulus is 0. Finally, print out a list of all the divisors. Example, if n is equal to 6, we'll be checking the modulus of 6 modulus 5, 6 modulus 4, 6 modulus 3, up to 6 modulus 1. So whichever modulus gives us 0, it means that number is a divisor. For example, if the user enters the integer 6, these are the divisors of 6, 1, 2, 3, and 6. Okay, let's write our function together. Okay, first we'll prompt the user to enter an integer. So we'll use the raw input function since I'm using Python 2. If you are using Python 3, use the built-in method or function input. So raw input, enter your integer. And then we'll save this in a variable called number. And we need to cast it by putting it in parentheses, so it's an integer. We need to cast it. We need to cast this prompt message to an integer. Okay. What we'll do next is find out all the range between 1 and the integer the user inputs, and we'll save that in a variable called, let's say, numRange. So that will be list. We'll use the range function. So the range will be between 1 and the number they enter plus 1. So for instance, if the user enters 8, so this will be range 1 to num plus 1, 8 plus 1, 9. So range 1 through 9 means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, but not including 9. That way we'll be checking 8 divided by 1, 8 modulus 2, 8 modulus 3, all the way up to 8 modulus 8. And then whichever gives us 0, that means it's a divisor of 8. Okay, so we have our list now. So this will contain a list containing numbers 1 through 8. Then we can use a for loop to calculate modulus of each of these numbers in our list. So we can say for the numbers in our numRange list, for numbers in numRange, if the number, if the input, right, modulus the individual number is equal to 0, because we are comparing if this modulus is equal to 0. We can say, but before we do that, let's create an empty list to contain all the divisors of the given number. So I'll just call it divisor num, and we'll create an empty list. So we can use this for loop and then append to our empty list. So that list will contain all the divisors. So if num modulus number is 0, we can append to our divisor num list that append number. And finally, we can simply print out this divisor number, so this list. Then we can print divisor num. Okay, let's see what we did step by step. Enter raw input, enter your integer, let's say 8. So that will create, we have 8, and then the num range will create a list. So this will contain a list of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 8, right? Range 1 plus num plus 1. And then we have our divisor num list. It's an empty list. This is empty currently. And then for number in num range, so the first number for each numbers in our list, let's say, so for 1, when this is 1, it will be if number modulus, if num modulus number is equal to 0. So the statement will be if num, our number is 8, modulus, the first number in our list is what? 1. It will check if it's equal to 0. If that's true, we will add this number, which is 1, to our list here, to our empty list. So this list will contain 1, and then it will check for the second element too. If that's 0, if the modulus is 0, it will add it here, append it here, and so on for all these elements here. Okay. Now let's run our program. It says enter your integer. Let's try 8. So we have 1, 2, 4, and 8, right? That makes sense. Let's run our program again. Enter your integer. Let's say 12. And then those are all the divisors of 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Good. How about 9? So for 9, it should be 1, 3, and 9. 1, 3, and 9. Let's try a bigger number, larger number. Let's say 1024. So these are all the divisors for 1024. Let's try even a bigger number. So those are all the divisors. Okay. So that's the first question. Now let's move on to the next question, to question number 2. Okay, question number 2 says, we have a list here. Use a for loop and if statement to find out if the numbers in the list X are positive, negative, or 0. And if the number is negative, find out the absolute value of the number. So we'll use a for loop to go through each of these numbers, and then we'll find out if each individual number is positive, negative, or 0. And if the number is negative, we'll calculate the absolute value of that number. Great. Let's look at the solution together. So let's start with our for loop. You can say for each of the numbers in our list X, so for each individual number in our list X, if the number is greater than 0, we can say print the number, and then we can say is a positive number. How about if the number is equal to 0? We can say elif number equal to 0. We can print the number, and we can say is neither a positive nor a negative number. Then the last condition is if it's less than 0, else we can print the number, then we can say is a negative number. And if the number is negative, we also need to calculate the absolute value, so we can also print that out. We can say and its absolute value is ABS's absolute value. We can use the ABS method, so absolute value of, and then we can pass the number. Okay, looks good. Absolute value of the number. So the only thing we need is we need to run the cell. Let's run it. Now let's run our program. Okay, here we have the result. It says -3 is a negative number and its absolute value is 3. Good. -5 is a negative number and its absolute value is 5. Great. -11 is a negative number and its absolute value is 11. 0 is neither a positive or a negative number. 2 is a positive number. 4, 6. So those are all positive. And this number is negative. And here is its absolute value. And finally we have this positive number. And so this example is fairly straightforward. We use the combination of for loop and if and else statements. So by using for loop once here, we are able to check our if statement conditions for each of the elements in our list. Great. We'll continue with the remaining questions in the next lecture. Thank you, everyone.